everyone, this is Miss Griffith here. I have a writing lesson for you today. We have been working very hard on our narrative writing. We first started with a brainstorm. The brainstorm allowed us to get our thoughts out on paper. We then took our thoughts from our brainstorm and put them into a rough draft. When we created our rough draft, we were able to expand on our thoughts and kind of make a sloppy copy. We then revised and edited our rough draft in order to make it stronger. And the step of the writing process today we are going to be doing is the final draft. So I'm going to take my rough draft and the revisions and edits in order to make it into my final draft. If we go back to look at our simple rough draft, I originally had, I was happy to play in the woods during summer at my camp. Part of the revision process, I took out the word happy and made it a more detailed or more interesting word of thrilled. When I rewrite this simple rough draft into a simple final draft, I'm going to take out the word happy and put the word thrilled. Again, whenever I am writing on lined paper like this, I want to always start at the top of the page. I want to start close to the red line here. I want to try to make my letters hit the bottom line and the top line if necessary. As I am writing on my final draft, the goal of this is to be my best writing yet. If I'm erasing words and making mistakes, I certainly want to make sure to erase the whole word so then when I write the correct word, it's easy to see. Okay, let's see my final draft. I'm going to read to you what I have so far. I was thrilled to play in the woods during summer at my camp. I took this sentence off my rough draft and put it onto my final draft. Because I have taken this sentence and put it on my final draft, I'm going to cross it out to let me know that I've wrote it. Now, it is important to note that when I'm writing on my final draft, as a writer, I want to make sure to leave space in between each word, and that makes it easier to read for the reader. Now that I have taken my simple rough draft and turned it into a simple final draft, I want to take my more detailed or complex rough draft and turn it into my final draft. Just like I did for the simple rough draft to the simple final draft, I'm going to take these thoughts, these corrections, and turn them into my final draft. I made the correction of a capital letter here, so I'm going to start with a capital letter. I made a spelling correction here, so I want to make sure that I correct that on my final draft. My first sentence reads, I went to camp every summer. And now I made a correction here. I needed to start with a capital letter, so I'm going to do so on my final draft. My second sentence reads, my family and I went to a cabin in the woods in Pennsylvania. If you can recall, during my revising and editing, I added the word Pennsylvania to make it more interesting and more detailed. I am going to cross out on my rough draft the two sentences that I have taken and put on my final draft so far. The goal of doing so is to help me keep track of where I am. I've taken this sentence and put it on my final draft. I've taken this sentence and put it on my final draft. I am going to continue and start here. Once again, I made a correction on the spelling here, so I want to make sure to make that correction when I write that word on my final draft. The sentence I just wrote was, when we are at camp, we are happy, thankful, and tired. I took that sentence off my rough draft and made the corrections that I put. I'm going to cross out that sentence on my rough draft to let me know that it is now on my final draft. The sentence that I just added to my final draft was a sentence that I took off of my rough draft. I made the corrections that I needed to, and it says, at camp we go fishing, hunting, and ride four-wheelers. I am going to cross the sentence off of my brain. I'm going to cross the sentence off of my rough draft. And it looks like I just have one more sentence to take from my rough draft and to put onto my final draft. Okay, and the sentence that I conclude my paragraph with is, my family and I were happy to be outdoors at my camp in the summer. To review, I took the information off of my rough draft and put it into my final draft, making the corrections that I had proposed during the revising and editing stage of the writing process. I now have a simple final draft and a more complex final draft that I've been working for several days on. If you would like, you can certainly illustrate your writing. If you choose to illustrate your writing, you want to make sure that your picture matches the writing. So you would want to draw a picture that describes what is going